So yesterday we have discussed about the TCP header format and all the options given in the header format. So it was very important. So it should be clear to all of you. And today we are going to discuss about more about TCP header format, TCP protocol. Okay. Okay, so today we need to discuss about the TCP connection establishment. First of all, I would like to hear from you because all of you know about the TCP connection establishment. Because all of you have written it in your yes. So explain it to me. Is TCP connection establishment? Chalo, do this time. Yes, last question. Last question was about. No, it was if you are having 7 out of 7, it was connection establishment and release in transport layer, right? Today's question is connection establishment in TCP. Right? Those who are having 2 marks, they have written the TCP connection establishment.
Ma'am,
Yes.
your voice is not clear, ma'am.
Okay. I'm asking about TCP connection establishment, right? Many students from you have written the TCP connection establishment. Yes, three-way handshake you have written, but it was not covered in the class, but all of you know about it, right? So I would like to hear from you. आवाज ना बोलूंगा तो बोलो आवाज ना right? So if I have a sender and a receiver. Yes, anyone? question. I have given you 2 marks because you know the concept of connection establishment and release, not because your question is right. I could have given you 0 also. But there is some problem with the pen, so I'm sharing you book, right? So this is the connection establishment scenario, right? So in TCP connection establishment, what happens? Uh, all of you know that connections are established in TCP by the means of three-way handshake, right? So what is a three-way handshake? First you request for a connection establishment and then acknowledgement comes that yes, your request is accepted, and then you connect to the particular server, right? So that is three-step handshake, right? So that it is called three-way handshake, right? So to establish a connection, say one side is the server passively waits for the incoming connection, right, by executing the listen and accept primitives, right? So suppose this host 2 is the server, so it will be executing listen primitive, right? All the primitives all of you know, so I should not explain the listen and accept primitive. So host 2 will be executing listen primitive. So host 2 is listening for any of the incoming connection, right? And if incoming connection is there, it will accept that connection, right? So what a client will do, client will execute connect primitive, right? So client will send the synchronization request and it will specify the IP address and the port to which it wants to connect, right? And it will also send the maximum TCP segment size to which it is willing to connect, right? So what it will send, a synchronization bit on and acknowledgement bit off. Why the synchronization bit is on and acknowledgement bit is off? In the first case, here you can see from host 1 to host 2, my pointer is visible, right? My mouse cursor. The students who are in the meet, I'm asking you, my mouse cursor is visible, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So from host 1 to host 2, the host 1, which is a client. So here the host 1 is the client and host 2 is the server, right? So whenever we are requesting, we will consider ourselves as a client, right? So here the host 1 is requesting for a connection, right? So it is sending the synchronization bit on. On means it is 1. And acknowledgement bit is off. That is why the acknowledgement bit is not mentioned over here, right? So what is the reason behind it? Because initially we are requesting for a connection and synchronization bit says that I want to connect with you, right? So we don't have received any packets. If I have received any packets, I need to send the acknowledgement, right? So because I am not sending the acknowledgement bit is off, right? Clear? Clear? Students in the meet link.
Yes, ma'am.
इमेज का रट्टा नहीं मारना है, इमेज में क्या लिखा है वो समझो. Synchronization bit is on with the sequence number some value, right? X means some value. And we have not written the acknowledgement over here because we are not sending the acknowledgement of the received packet, right? Then what host does, host sends the synchronization bit on and acknowledgement bit on, right? And it will set the acknowledgement to X plus 1. So it is the acknowledgement for the X, right? And it will give the sequence number of this message. So suppose this is one message, right? So sequence number of this message will be Y, and this message will contain synchronization bit 1 and acknowledgement X plus 1. Right? So synchronization is on and acknowledgement is also on. Right. Now the client wants to tell the server that yes, I have received your acknowledgement. Right. So because the sequence number of this packet is Y, so if this is a message, this name of this message is Y. So now the client wants to send the acknowledgement for this Y message. First, the server was sending the acknowledgement for the X message, right? Sequence number X. So here the acknowledgement was X plus 1 because this is the acknowledgement for this message. Right. Now client is sending the acknowledgement for this Y message, right, which is having sequence number Y. So it is attaching the acknowledgement equal to Y plus 1 because the acknowledgement is for this, right, and it is giving the sequence number to some value, right, it is giving the sequence number X plus 1. So this is the normal case when a client wants to connect to the server, right, and what happens if both the machines, suppose this is host 2 and host 1, both the host wants to connect simultaneously, right? So here you can see that this message synchronization and some sequence number, this is sent by host 1, here it is sent by host 1 as well as it is sent by host 2, right? That means what? The host 1 and host 2 both are requesting for the connection simultaneously. They are unaware of the situation that the other host has already requested for the connection, right? So what will happen? Both the connection will be established or one connection will be established. In this case, okay, it is written over here that one of this connection will be executed and only one connection will be established between host 1 and host 2, right? So here the B image is telling you that it is a call collision, right? I have heard from you that you are referring the PPT. That is good that you are referring the PPT, but to understand everything, you should refer the book. Yes, everything is written over here, right? So if you have missed out something in the lecture, you can read it from here and you can understand it properly. Okay. So here you can read that the event that two hosts simultaneously attempt to establish a connection between the same two sockets. So this event is illustrated in this figure that we have discussed. The result of this event is just one connection will be established, right? Not two, because the connections are identified by their endpoints. Endpoints are our host, right? The host will identify whenever this request comes, the host one will identify that yes, I have already sent a connection and I have already connected to a host 2. Right, so there will be some difference between the time duration, right? So one case may be that host 1 has already sent a request and it has already connected to host 2 and then the request for the connection from the host 2 arrives, right? So connection is already established with the host 2, so host 1 will ignore the connection request from the host 2, right? So this can happen any of the sites, right? This can happen at host 2 also. Then comes the connection release. One suggestion is there that if you are copying in your examination, please be ready for the offline examination for the end semester examination. If whatever the exam is coming next, it can be there offline, right? So you have to prepare everything. If you are copying everything from the PPT or the internet, it will not work in the next exam. Maybe the second internal, maybe the last one. Yes. Okay. So we have already discussed the connection types, right? We can have simplex connection, duplex connection, and full duplex connection. I think in the UDP lecture we have discussed it. Right. So in TCP, we will be always having the full duplex connection because we first establish the connection. So we imagine a channel between host 1 and host 2. From the channel, the host 1 and host 2 both can communicate, right? So uh, all the TCP connection will be following the full duplex connection. And to understand how the connections are released, we should consider it as a pair of a simplex connection, right? Because each of the user will be sending a finalized bit, right? So whenever the first user is setting the finalized bit on and it is received at the second user will be acknowledging the finalized bit, right? So whenever the finalized bit is acknowledged by second user will assume that no more data is to be sent from the user one, right? Same way, the second user will set the finalized bit on. So here, this host 2 will set this finalized bit on. Same way, the synchronized bit on. Same way, the finalized bit will be set to on, and it will be sent to host 1, and host 1 will acknowledge with the connection release from the host 2. So host 1 will understand that host 2 does not have any more data to be sent. Right? So this way, the connection will be released. All of you have studied finite state machine in your previous semesters. Da, da earlier. Then we have timed wait. So after sending the finalizing request, particular host will wait for some time. Right? It will. You can say that it will set a timer to which it will wait that if any packets are received in this time duration, it can do with something with those packets, right? After that, it will close. Yes, it will clear everything, right? Right. Then the closing stage. That means both the sides have tried to close simultaneously. Then the close wait. Close wait means the other side has initiated a release. Right. So if other side has initiated a release, I can send the acknowledgement, right? And I am in the state of the close wait. And the last acknowledgement is the state when you are waiting for all the packets to die off, right? So there will be some time to leave for every packet. So you will be waiting for all the packets to die off. Right. So let us understand the figure. Yes, if you have been asked that explain TCP connection management modeling, then you have to draw this, right? And yes, this table you have to explain, and this FSM you have to draw, right? So here you can see સમજાઈ જશે પછી તમને યાદ રહે. So all the states are mentioned over here in the square brackets: close, listen, synchronization, sent, received, and all, right? See, here you can see that the line, this bold line is for a client, right? So if you follow this line, you can understand the process of client, right? And this dotted line is the process of server, right? All the dotted line is a process of server, right? And this square brackets is giving us some no. This generally this square bracket is considered as a one procedure, right? So it is giving us the detailed procedure which is going on in the particular state, right? So this both brackets are giving us the active close situation and the passive close situation, right? So let us follow the diagram. Whenever you start from the closed state, right? So this is the starting state. First of all, what will happen? Particular user. So this is a pair of, you can say, the event and the action pair, right? Event and action pair is given, right? So connect is an event, right? You want to connect, that is an event, and synchronization bit is set to 1. That means this is your action, right? So this is event action pair is given over here. So the particular client want to connect, and it has sent the synchronization bit to 1, right? So this will be the step 1 of a three-way handshake, right? So now the client will be in the state of synchronization sent because it has already sent the synchronization, right? Then what will happen? The synchronization will be received at some receiver part, and some three-way handshake will be done, right? So acknowledgement will be sent and everything will be done in this part, right? Then the connection is established, right? So connection is established from the server, right? So we have shown the dotted line and then connection is established. So from client, you can also say that the connection is established at the end of the three-way handshake, right? So here the step 1, this is step 2, then acknowledgement is received and connection is established. So client side, you can see that this line, then this line, right? Then client has sent the acknowledgement, right? And then the connection is established from the client side as well as the server side, right? So here the connection is establishment, and now the particular situation is in the data transfer state. Now you can transfer the data. Between the connection sync. See, because we have started with the client side, we are not discussing about the listen state. If I start with the server side, first of all, server will be in the listen state, right? It will be in the state of listening from the client, right? So the server will be listening from the client for the synchronization request, right? And server will be sending, whenever the synchronization request is received, server will acknowledge that yes, your request is received, right? So this dotted line, you can see that. Right? Here the server is listening, and here the client is requesting. Yes. So in this part, data transfer will happen and connection will be established, right? So this is the client side and this is the server side. Dotted line is the server side. Now for connection close, we have this part. So what will happen? A client. So this follow this bold line for a client, right? So a client will be in the closed state, and it will set the finalized bit to 1, right? So it will enter in the active close block, right? So this block is the active close block, right? So here you need to follow this line, this bold line, right? So client is requesting for the connection close. Now I have entered in this active close, right? So here what is happening? It is entering to the state finalize wait 1. Finalize wait 1 means what? Connection. Yes, finalize. Yes, request is already sent, right? And after receiving the acknowledgement, it will go to finalize wait 2. Meanwhile, it can go into the closing state. Like closing state, that means the connection close is requested by both the sides, right? And after this procedure of sending the finalized bit 1 and receiving the acknowledgement for finalized bit, after all these things, it will go to this time wait state. It will wait for some time. Yes, it will time out and it will will wait for all the packets to die. Right? Right? Wait for all the packets to die off. Right? So this active close is done. So this is the client side. We are following the bold line, right? So from server side, you can see that this dotted line, this is the passive close, right? So what a server will do, server will receive the finalized bit to 1 and it will send this finalized bit to 1 as well as the acknowledgement for that, right? So after sending this acknowledgement, what a server will do, server will wait for closing the connection because it has already sent the connection, right? And after this state, so if a connection is closed, that means your server is in the state last acknowledgement. That means connection will be closed later on. So finally the connection is closed. And then you can go back to start state, right? You can again establish a connection. So is it clear? Yes, the students in the meet link, is it clear? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
यस भी ऐसा होना चाहिए कि सामने वाले को सुन के लगे कि हाँ क्लियर है. अगर क्लियर नहीं है, you can ask. I will explain again in the next lecture. Just wait for a minute. I'm taking your attendance. Is there any doubts? Is there any doubts? Yes or no? If you are having any doubt, you can ask. Okay, so I'm assuming that you are not having any doubts and I'm terminating the meeting. Thank you everyone. You can leave now.